Have you ever seen or taken part of a certain aesthetic that at first glimpse you think to yourself, yeah, I dig this. I identify with this even. This is so cool. But then later on discover that the origin of it may not be as innocent as you thought it was. Well then, there's a certain aesthetic that has become prominent these last couple of months, especially among teenage girls, girls in their 20s, and some seriously deranged adult men. Let me explain. 3 words I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with, but maybe not many of you understand the true meaning behind it. Nymphette, which obviously comes from the word nymph. We have Lolita, or in anime terms lolly, and then the word coquette, which is our topic for today, because the coquette aesthetic focuses heavily on the culture behind each of these words. Let's begin with the word nymphette, used in 1955 in Vladimir Nabokov's novel Lolita. See how everything is tied together? According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, it means a sexually precocious girl barely in her teens, and also a sexually attractive young woman. You might ask me, so what? It's a random word that means something nefarious. Should we cancel all such words and live in Teletubby land? Of course not. The problem here is a lot of people see themselves as such. They identify with the term and embrace it. Many young girls, most in their teenage years, who are part of the coquette aesthetic, lately became a whole community, call themselves nymphets. If you type nymphette girl aesthetic in Google Images, you will be inundated with tons of pictures of pink bedrooms, white and pastel lingerie type clothes, and a bunch of stylish and cute decoration. Which isn't bad, but however, if you remove the term aesthetic, replace it with Twitter, and hit enter, you'll see some disturbing posts from there, such as this one. This is an adult woman clearly posing as an underage prepubescent girl, which is a huge problem. A story from 2 years ago also comes up that reads as follows. Kellyanne Conway is being investigated after topless pic of teen daughter appears on Twitter. There's also this TikTok video that appears. A young adult talking about her nymphette era, I suppose, and she says this. So did anyone else post borderline CP on nymphette Tumblr in 2014, or was it just me? This and a bunch of other posts lead me to believe that back when this aesthetic first appeared, a lot of impressionable teenage girls were either pressured or tricked or influenced into posting very suggestive pictures/videos of themselves. And who knows what kind of rabbit holes a curious 12-year-old girl might fall into. Anyway, let's move on to the next term. Lolita. According to the Webster, it means a precociously seductive girl. Now, this term comes from the 1997 movie Lolita, which was based on Nabokov's 1955 novel. The movie tackles a huge issue that was prominent back then and still is to this day. Adults who are attracted to underage girls/boys. In my opinion, whatever the movie's intentions were, it kind of failed. Because 26 years later, deprived weirdos are still romanticizing this movie. More specifically, a very problematic scene in it. This scene, that I am obviously not going to play for you, features a 12-year-old girl laying on her stomach in the grass reading a book, while the sprinklers are on, making her body all wet. The actress who plays the girl was 17 years old at the time. My point is that movie spawned a herd of sexually deprived losers who belong in jail. Because I'm pretty sure, and this is my own opinion by the way, that they relate to and identify with Humbert Humbert, the French writer who's a creep and takes an interest in the young girl. They don't see it as wrong and they don't see the problem with it. They see it as something they are and feel connected to it, and thus giving themselves enough excuses as to why what they feel and want is okay and normal. By the way, before we move on, there's another Lolita movie in 1962 by Stanley Kubrick, and the actress who plays Dolores, Lolita, was only 14 years old at the time. Let that sink in.
Let that sink in.
When we go to the third term and explain it, we find that coquette in its core meaning is a woman who endeavors without sincere affection to gain the attention and admiration of men. Or in other words, a woman who flirts a lot with men without being interested at all. But over the years, and especially lately, the meaning of the term has shifted among its users to mean something like a woman who embraces her femininity, who is sexually active, uses drugs, and likes everything pink, white, vintage, and high-end brand. Or so I've seen online anyway. The thing is, this aesthetic is very delicate and very easy to both misunderstand and misrepresent. This movement-like community started way before its resurgence in the 2020s, way back in the golden years of Tumblr in the 2010s. The problem back then was that most of its members, enthusiasts if you will, were prepubescent girls who took on this femme fatale persona, willingly behaving in certain ways and dressing in certain styles to attract way older men. The idea behind it was romanticizing a relationship with a much older man who is more mature and nurturing. Of course, it is wrong, and those girls dove into a world they shouldn't be in. Back in those days, there wasn't much moderation, and these girls fell victim to pressure, grooming, and even CP creation. As seen earlier, there have been a lot of girls in the 20s lately coming forward and telling their stories, realizing how much in danger they were when they were teenagers. Fast forward to these last couple of years, and the nymphet core came back as what we're seeing as Coquette aesthetic, but in all honesty in a much more subtle and safer way. Of course, back then it wasn't all doom and gloom. Some people participated in the whole thing as innocently as one, living their own style and expressing themselves in their own way. In every evil there is good, and in every good there is evil. Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes. I will do what I must.
Coquette was chosen as the word to replace nymphet and lolita. In a style where pink and pale colors dominate, vintage miniskirts and vintage shoes are the go-to choice of clothing, and a very packed maximalist style of decoration. There are these two videos that describe the Coquette aesthetic perfectly. This one by Drama Queen, and if you speak French, Tentacule goes into all the excruciating details in this video. They're both linked down in the description below. Anyway, my takeaway from this is be careful, especially if you are the guardian of, or if you are an impressionable teenage girl or boy. There are some really bad actors out there, and with Coquette getting spread and embraced by more and more people, these bad people will do everything in their power to try and prey on unsuspecting victims. Because like we said earlier, it's the Lolita effect all over again. If you've made it this far in the video, thanks for clicking, it means a lot to me, and it really helps the channel out. You can go ahead and subscribe now. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you soon.